Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een. Assalamu alaikum everybody, welcome to the live stream of the Living with Barakah show. How do you manage a team with Barakah? How do you inculcate in them Barakah culture? How do you try to balance between a company performance and team performance, yet at the same time try to nurture people and have the mindsets, values, and rituals that instill with them those Islamic values as you build a team? These questions and more, they're part of today's show. So Bismillah, let's get started, inshallah ta'ala. So Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, welcome again to the Living Barakah show. If you're new here, just type in new in the comments, whether in Facebook or YouTube. This show is a weekly show from Productive Muslim Company to connect spirituality to personal and professional development. Whether you're managing a team, whether you're a professional, whether you're a business owner or an entrepreneur, this show tries to bring the best out of there in the world out there right now in terms of self-help, in terms of getting things done, in terms of productivity, leadership, and connect it to our values, especially connect to this concept of barakah. And today we're honored to have my friend, my dear friend, Chris Abdur-Rahman Blauvelt, the founder and CEO of LaunchGood. Assalamu alaikum, Chris.
Hey, wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Thank you so much for having me. I know you have a lot of things on your plate, and this is a time that, perhaps it's a bit of a, it's one of those times where you could be doing a lot of things, but thank you so much for joining us and sharing some practical wisdom on how to manage your team. Now, for those who are not aware, Chris is the founder and the co-founder of LaunchGood.com, the crowdfunding platform that a lot of us have grown to love the last 5 years. This is the platform that's behind the Ramadan challenge, the platform that's behind the Dhul Hijjah challenge, the platform that has been doing a lot of impact around the world and being really commented and shown and basically featured in a lot of mainstream media as well. And Chris, today I want to sort of discuss with you perhaps the behind the scenes of LaunchGood, especially when it comes to building a team. I feel we're now in this cusp of a very interesting time in this sort of what we call Islamic economy, where these sort of faith-based, faith-driven companies that are now becoming established, they're having established business models, they're building teams. You're hiring, you just, before the call, say that you're going on hiring at this moment. So if you could just first of all just talk about this stage we're in terms of this Islamic economy, where you're seeing companies now coming online that are established, that are growing. What did you notice in the last 5 years as just in terms of this area, this scene of the Islamic economy and the Islamic startup scene? What have you noticed that perhaps get people interested and excited about this today, inshallah?
I mean, it's totally different. I think Mohammed, you started before me. I started LaunchGood about 7 years old, and at that time it was really like you were the stranger in the room, right? And it was we had the conferences in Dubai. We would meet, and it was always exciting because there were so few and like scattered in between. But now there's a lot more. There's a lot more companies that are coming up in the space. Like Most Matches is a great example that. They didn't exist when we were there, and now they're like one of the booming stars and got this awesome office in London and getting millions of dollars in investment and actually have employees and paying people good salaries. And we have a number of those companies now. I think beyond that, and you've actually worked with this too, I think, is there are also a lot more companies that are not necessarily Islamic companies. It might be a small consulting firm that does cybersecurity. But they're founded by Muslims, and maybe not necessarily everyone works there is Muslim, but they want to make sure those values are part of their business, because these aren't like values only for running a Muslim business. No, these are life values that should transcend into every aspect of our life, including the businesses that we run. And I think if we are running a business within the Muslim community or a charity, a nonprofit, something that requires salaries and organization, etc., there is an added emphasis of we have to make sure that, and we always have to be on top of our game, but now we really have to be on top of our game, because to me it just come across as hypocrisy. And we see that people are very sensitive to that. I mean, in the news recently, there were some concerns around Muslim charities and, some of the governance and stuff. And like people, without even knowing all the details, unfortunately, they just jump on it and attack it. And just people do expect the best from us. But we should honestly expect the best from ourselves, first and foremost.
Absolutely. It's interesting. I like that when you mentioned that this is not only about people who have, startups that are serving the Muslim community, but also if you are a CEO of a company. For example, I was in South Africa last year and doing consulting for a company on basically how to inculcate Barakah culture. And this is a company that's doing IT work that's for the mainstream. But the fact that the CEO and leadership team really were thinking through how to build this Barakah culture in the organization. And honestly, for me, and I'm not saying this because you're my friend only, honestly, I've seen LaunchGood and seeing the ups and downs of LaunchGood, some of the challenges. I've seen that sort of you take a conscious effort in trying to deal with, because this is almost a new territory and almost like a new figuring this out from scratch, especially in the startup world, and how does it look like. So if you describe how does managing a team with that Barakah mindset, Barakah culture look like versus one that's not, just so we can compare and contrast, and just like what does it look like for you, especially they also worked also with other companies as well. What are the key features that makes a team that operate with Barakah look like is different from one that's not, perhaps?
So I'm going to give some practical examples to start, but then I want to actually get into the philosophical framework behind it. Practically, it means things like starting big meetings with dua. Not necessarily every meeting. It's like, hey, I need to talk to you about salary. No, like we're not going to do that. But if it's our monthly team meeting or larger department meetings, we often start with a bismillah, a dua, end with a dua. That's like one piece of it. Other pieces of it are making dua at night for your teammates. I was better at that during like the spiritual high seasons like Ramadan. You really try to do it. Outside, it's a little bit harder, but generally making dua for your company, making dua for your employees, being really concerned with them. People will always be dealing with things. There's always going to be somebody facing some sort of challenge, and really trying to be empathetic for that person. Little things like spending money here and there, right? So we had, sometimes someone falls on a hard time, and it's not necessarily your responsibility to get them out of it, but you feel like we're in a position to better than anyone else could, and they work with us, and there's a certain level of almost like your family in that situation. And so, knowing that, okay, we're going to spend a little extra money and help this person in their moment of difficulty, because we hope that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala helps us in our moment of difficulty. I think there's hadith like that. One of my favorite hadith, it's a snippet of the hadith, is, God is at the aid of his servant as long as that servant is aiding his brother. So, we really try that. And then even like, making sure we pay zakat as a company. We try to do, usually when people do tax planning, they try to see like, how can I minimize my taxes? When we do zakat planning, we look at how can we maximize our zakat. So we pay our zakat at the end of Ramadan when it's like absolutely the peak of how much we could pay in zakat. But we do it because we believe that's going to bring the blessings back to the business. So it doesn't seem like a smart financial choice, but it is a smart, we believe a smart, kind of spiritual choice, and in the long term, a smart financial choice. Now, what does that all mean? Like if we step back, look at this more holistically, it's submitting to the belief that there's a higher power. There's someone in control, and more control than we are. We have our forecasts, and we have our 6-month plans and 5-year vision and all these things. But you realize that, like, subhanAllah, there's a million and one things that can go wrong with your business that are out of your control. And you have so many decisions to make on a daily basis. And by doing all these things, what we're basically trying to do is tap into that higher power and get their guidance and their hidden protection as we do this business. And sometimes, you know this, we've gone through some really difficult times lately. And at some point, you just feel like giving up. And then I try to convert that to a feeling of like giving in, like, okay, Allah, like I'm trying, I've done all I can, like I give it over to you now, like, I trust in you to take care of me. And inshallah, if we're doing those things that earn Allah's barakah or earn Allah's blessings, that will help us, continue to grow and thrive as a business.
I love that. And again, it's powerful because a lot of times going to business, we don't think that way, right? It's almost like, oh, it's business, right? It's the finances, it's about the cutthroat culture, it's about getting things done, it's about the competition. And thinking about Barakah as an ingredient for business strategy, as an ingredient for success, it's saying, I'm going to attract Barakah, not on an individual level. It's not like I'm going to do my Quran and dua, but I'm going to think of, okay, how can we as a company, for example, make sure we maximize our zakah? How can we as a company make dua for the same thing? For example, one thing we started this year at Productive Muslim is in Ramadan, we actually put a Google Doc together of all the du'as that we want to make as a team. And every team member was actually making that same dua for the whole month. So it was like a team effort of building that like collective dua, all of us asking ourselves for the same things. And again, just seeing those things and thinking about them and inculcating it does bring that, like I said, that barakah element. And I love what you just said, that sometimes we put these plans, put these goals, but we can't, there's so many things can go wrong. And the example I always give is the idea of the gardener, the idea that, you plant the seed, you work hard, but a hurricane can come and just destroy your crops, or something else might come up. But upon you is the seed, the planting, the hard work, the processes. Beyond that, that the fruits is not up to you. I think that, and you guys really, so mashallah, we really sort of, live with that. I guess,
just as a tangent on that point, and as someone with Hadrami roots, I think you'd appreciate this. I think the scholars of Hadramaut, they say that, the awliya, the friends of God, they prefer the professions of either farmers or business people, because they're the ones where it is most apparent that you rely on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We always, actually all of us, no matter what your job is, you can, no matter how secure you think it is, we rely on God. But when you're in business or you're farming, you really see it, because you're like, wow, like you're exactly, like a hurricane can come through and like ruin everything, or, some financial regulation can come and like wipe out your business, or who knows, right?
Absolutely. I guess Martin here is asking, and is asking very powerful questions. Okay, it might make sense for these to have these rituals in a, Muslim-only sort of a startup, right? Or majority are Muslims. How do you bring that barakah culture if you're a manager, or if you're a team lead, if you're a CEO at a quote-unquote mainstream company? How can you bring these values? And this is something that now becoming a discussion. And I shared the article last week on the New York Times. It has a terrible title. I won't even repeat it. But the title talks about, how there's divinity consultants, people coming in and talking about how to bring spirituality in the workplace, because there is that need for spirituality in the workplace. So how do you bring these values, this sort of barakah culture values? If you've had experience, especially that your LaunchGood is also reaching out beyond the Muslim community, and people are seeing the work and the impact of LaunchGood beyond Muslim community. What thoughts do you have on that front, Inshallah?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously a lot more difficult if you're in a company that is, for example, a mainstream company, especially if it's large. Like if I'm the CEO of Ford Motor Company, I can't be like, I'm going to pay zakat this year, and I'm going to pay the most zakat possible. Like I'll get sued by my shareholders for not maximizing their profitability. I do have another startup called Patronisti, where almost everybody, except for one person, is not Muslim. And within that, like obviously we're not going to be as explicit with our du'as and some of the things. But I also don't hide about how I feel about things, and being explicit that, we make certain business decisions. One, for example, interacting with alcohol-based businesses, like we're not going to go down that route because that's not really aligned with my values. And I don't think it's good for the business, even though financially it looks like a good opportunity. And what people respect others who stand for their values, even if they don't agree with those values. A good example of that is like Muhammad Ali. Allah have mercy on him. When I was very fortunate to attend Muhammad Ali's funeral in Louisville, Kentucky, a few years ago, and one of the speakers at his commemoration talked about a commensuration, talked about, Muhammad Ali was hated in the 60s and the 70s. And by the 90s, he was the most beloved person in America.
SubhanAllah.
And he's like, he never changed. His values from 30 years ago were the same, but people changed. America changed. And so that's the other thing we have to keep in mind. That I think it's important to stick to those values. It's not that everyone's going to love you for them, but hopefully they will respect you for them. And if they see the consistency in those values, then over time, I think they will love you.
I love that. I love that consistency in values. Absolutely. Because like I said, it's not a one-off decision you make. It's like you being consistent and you're willing to take some heat for it as well as a team lead, as a CEO as well. Now, I know.
Actually, yeah. And I just thought of something.
Go for
it. With respect to that, is there are some examples of companies that actually do this, right? And I think Chick-fil-A is probably the one that comes most to mind, right? It's like they're very openly Christian in their roots. It doesn't mean you have to be Christian to work there, of course, but like they're not open on Sundays. This is a company whose like lines are out the door, who have even Atlanta, they have a Chick-fil-A within the Mercedes-Benz Dome for the football games, and it's like it's going to be closed on Sunday, which it's like, wow, that's such a terrible business decision. But actually, a lot of people respect Chick-fil-A for that, and it's led to this like very dedicated, strong base of supporters. And that's just one example within America.
I love that.
But on the flip side, they are privately owned, and they don't have to, comply to stockholder rules and regulations and stuff like that. So, like I said, it's going to vary according to how much control you have within your business, within your settings. But we should do what we're able to.
I love that, and I love that the point is actually very important. That sometimes, as Muslims especially, I feel like sometimes we have this, I guess, I don't know, called inferiority complex, called nerve. We don't want to openly talk about Barakah culture, for example. I mean, why not, right? Why not talk about Barakah as something that you sincerely believe in and share that? So this is my values. This is what I believe. This is what when I went and talked about Barakah culture across even at mainstream companies, people respond to. They're like, yeah, this makes sense. Like one thing we do is start to use these cards, Barakah culture, values, mindset, rituals. People are going through. I'm like, go through it. Yes, some things you might disagree with or might not feel comfortable doing, but at least 70% of the cards here, the mindset, values, they apply to you. You'll find like this actually makes sense. This stuff I would align with. So I feel like there's another element of it, as much as sometimes we like to kind of hide our identity or try not to ruffle any feathers. But I feel part of this, and I hope that if you have something beautiful to offer, something beautiful to share, why not share it? I want to talk about, I guess, you as a team, because I know that you went through phases where you kind of hide a lot, let a lot of people go, hired, and now you're hiring again, and just that process of hiring and firing and hiring again. How do you maintain the team culture and team spirit in these situations where sometimes you get challenged, there's a cash crunch, you gotta let people go. Sometimes the company outgrows the performance of people. They'll say like, sorry, we have to let you go. How do you manage that and still keep the team spirit? Because it might reduce morale. People might say, oh, this company is not respecting sort of the Barakah culture. How do you manage that?
That's a good question. I mean, so I'd answer a few ways. One is a lot of the team culture is actually set at the very birth of the company. We took these Y Combinator classes. I really encourage it for everyone. It's called How to Start a Startup. And one of the things they talk about, basically the first 5 employees or team members of a company are going to define the DNA of that company forever, which is really intimidating. It also made us very careful and conscious of who we brought on early to the team. And we went through this exercise in the very beginning, like a really concentrate exercise of defining our values, and not just like, oh, we're honest and act with integrity. Everyone should have those values, but more specific things like we have one called prophetic inclusiveness. We want to be inclusive in the way that the Prophet ﷺ was inclusive with people. And one about grit. Like we're a very gritty team. We're from Detroit. It's a very gritty place. Like, there's a bunch of other values. I don't want to bore you, but I think by defining those values and then every new employee goes through training to hear about those values, but not just what those values are, but a story that relates to how that value actually manifests or manifested in the past within LaunchGood. And that storytelling, reinforcing those values. I mean, that's what religions do pretty well, right?
Good stories.
These books like the Quran or the Bible or Torah, like they tell stories to reinforce values. And so we try to do that as a company. Now, when you get to these moments where a few years ago, we had to let some people go, and that was the first time we've ever had to let people go. And it wasn't like a ton of people, but it was like 5 people. And when you're a team of 20 people, that's a lot of people. It's 25% of your workforce. It's difficult. That's the most difficult thing we've ever had to go through, probably. The very first thing you have to do always is, I think, lead by example. So before we let anybody go, it was like, okay, we're freezing our own salaries as leadership team. We're going to really kind of dig in our finances, make sure that there's no other option except for to go down this route. And then we communicate things. We really believe in transparency and communicating well with our teams. And it's actually from that experience now, like when we do our monthly all hands on meeting, we just open up our finances. We're like, okay, this is how we did it last month. This is our revenue. This is like how we're looking for the year. This is what we need to achieve for the rest of the year. And what we used to think was kind of like mundane details or irrelevant details for people have actually become a great bridge towards building trust within the team and helping them really see that we're taking this seriously. And what do I mean by this is the Amana of Leadership. So, we know the Prophet, peace be upon him, said, "Kullukum ra'in, kullukum mas'ulun an ra'iyatihi." All of you are shepherds, and you're all going to be asked about your herd, right? About your flock, basically. What are your responsibilities? And everyone has responsibilities. As a leader within a company and a founder company, I have many responsibilities, but, for example, setting the vision, setting the culture, and making sure that financially we're sustainable. Like this is, the first couple of years, it was kind of like, hey, anyone who wants to help out, jump in. We're not going to pay you. Like we're just trying to see, can this like work? Now we got people on our health care. We got, families dependent on us. The people have kids. I have kids. So the level of responsibility is, like 100x what it used to be. And likewise, we have to be, careful that all the choices we're making for the team respect that responsibility that they've entrusted us with.
I love that. I love you mentioned 2 values there, 2 Barakah values, Barakah culture values. One is Amana, trust, and trust at its best, right? It's not as trust means, okay, you got to trust me. I know, what I'm doing, but openly being transparent, opening your book, sharing your saying, here's where we are. And the second one, like I said, is the idea of responsibilities, a sense of responsibility, but a sense of entitlement. And I think it's something that someone can say, hey, I built this company. Who are you to question my decisions? No, I feel responsible that now the families depend on this, that the people are, that's a Barakah culture, right? That's a Barakah culture that really need to inculcate in all our companies. One of the most, I guess, when it comes to hiring, one of the verses of the Quran that I guess sticks to most of us is that the story of the daughter of Shu'aib, who, when she observed Prophet Musa alayhi salam and saw how trustworthy he was and how strong he was, she went to his dad and says, "Ya abati ista'jirhu inna khayra man ista'jarta al-qawiy al-amin." Oh, father, hire him, right? Like just hire him. In the best person you could hire, someone who is strong and someone who's trustworthy. And I want to ask about LaunchGood's hiring process. Right now, I know you're going through massive hiring campaign. If you go, guys, check out launchgood.com/careers. There's some great opportunities there for you to check out. So what does that look like? How do you hire someone? Okay, skills, all right, fine, technical, CV, references, but for character, for trustworthiness, how do you judge that? How do you build that in a team member?
So that's where references help a lot for sure.
Okay.
And we definitely look for that. And I like that. I haven't thought about that. In terms of hiring, it's perfect. Because it's like, okay, they have to like they have the talent that we need, right? So if we're going to hire an email marketing director, like they got to be really talented in terms of email, and we're looking for, the best of the best. But then he has to be or she has to be Amin. Like they have to have the good qualities and characters. And both are really important. It's usually pretty easy to tell if someone has the talent. You can just look at their resume and the things that they've done in their current job. It's a lot harder to tell if they do have that character. We certainly, for example, recently we were going to hire a marketing director, which is a position we really need. And if you're a great marketing director, please do reach out. And we found someone really talented. He seemed like just so great. And then we got some feedback from somebody we know, and they're like, actually, I think it was one of the references we checked. It's like, sometimes he gets angry at the people he works with. And we're like, that's just not part of our culture at all. Like, we don't get angry. Maybe different companies act differently, but that's not how we operate. We don't get mad at each other. We don't like that can lead very quickly, I think, to a toxic culture. And the process just stopped right there. So it was like, it seemed 110% it was going to be his job, and then it wasn't. So we do that. I was thinking of something else, but I forgot it. But yeah, I hope that answers your question. I think you need to check references. I remember what I was going to say now. I think there's another component here. If you talk about Barakah, I think one of the great ways to earn Barakah in your team are through the people you hire.
SubhanAllah.
So, some people know my co-founder, Omar Hamid. I say he's our chief design officer. He's in Sydney at the moment. I call it, I like to say he's Mahbub. And for people that know Arabic, Mahbub means beloved. But, and you probably use this, Muhammad, my understanding within Arabic culture or Arab culture, Mahbub, someone who's Mahbub is like, everyone loves this person. Allah loves this person. SubhanAllah.
SubhanAllah.
And, that's how Omar is. Like, he just makes you feel like so happy when you're with him. You just feel like Allah loves this person and is taking care of him, and he'll take care of us because of him.
I love that.
Now, we still hold Omar to a high standard, and he, alhamdulillah, meets that standard and exceeds it. But, that is, I think, an added benefit sometimes when you hire people, is that they can bring a certain barakah themselves. And one of those people we had to let go once upon a time was a Hafiz of Quran.
Oh, no.
That was, you're like, oh man, I'm like letting someone who is a Hafiz of Quran go.
SubhanAllah.
Like, it was difficult. But generally, I consider it as very fortunate to have some really blessed people on our team that, you feel like if they raise their hands up in prayer, Allah will answer it.
I love that. SubhanAllah. The barakah of your team. Just like, we all know that the guests come with their own barakah, for example, right? So imagine guests who just come once to your house. They bring the barakah in your house. Imagine a team that you're inviting to your company, and you're both working together. Like, what sort of barakah is that? And that's also another powerful thing about also focusing on helping team members grow spiritually with you. It's not just about, and I know you do this a lot. I know you do, like, you invite speakers to team meetings and you try to inculcate in them this idea of this sort of basically, just even through just reminders, right? We all need reminders. How important is that in your own team culture of trying to develop not just someone's skills and competence, but their spiritual development without, of course, getting too personal perhaps, but I did just, almost create a space for spiritual. I know we spoke about this. We said, remember you telling Muhammad, you want to hire a chief murabbi officer. And I was like, I thought that was genius. I was like, hire somebody who focuses on the spiritual development of your team members. That I don't think any company has thought of that. So where are your thoughts on that front, on how develop people, especially when money and success comes in, egos might stop playing up. How do you manage that as a team grows, inshallah?
I was very serious about hiring, that chief murabbi officer. I take that from my favorite football team or American football team, the New England Patriots. I'll probably get a lot of hate for that, but I'm from Massachusetts, so what do you expect? I'm from Massachusetts. I went to University of Michigan. Tom Brady went to University of Michigan. Like, of course I'm going to love the Patriots. But there's a lot to learn from them. I mean, the most successful football program ever, most successful coach ever in Bill Belichick. And like, how does, it's one thing to have a star player and do well for 3 or 4 years, but to be able to sustain it over 20 years is like, it's truly unprecedented. And one of the things that the Patriots started doing before anybody else, and now it's actually pretty commonplace, is they had a character coach, is what they call it. So they would and especially because Bill Belichick, the head coach, is not known to be a personable guy. He's like, rather than trying to teach himself to be warm and fuzzy, it's like, no, we're going to hire a character coach for the players. And the famous one, Jack Easterby, that they used to have, retired someone with a divinity degree, and he would sit with players and really make sure they're doing well personally. Because if you have someone on your team and they're not if they're struggling personally with something, you're not going to get their best effort in the office, for sure. Like, they're not going to produce the results you want because there's a more immediate crisis going on. But there's only so much you can manage as a business person. If someone's going through a divorce, they need someone to sit with them, but that's a hard thing to to manage when you're trying to get your latest marketing campaign out, right? Now, we don't have that character coach or chief Murabi officer, so it is our responsibility as leaders to sit down and kind of own that moment with our employees when they're going through difficult things. And that's been probably the biggest surprise for me in becoming, a small business leader, is how much work is done on a personal level. I feel like a lot of my time is spent just making sure that emotionally people are okay. Sometimes I have to force people to take vacations, for example. In terms of really developing them spiritually, that is hard in the sense that people are on their own path, right? Like, so, they differ in their level of religiosity, and in some cases they're not even Muslim. And so you can't force your way on them. But I do think, as you mentioned, we bring in guest speakers. We offer, for example, all of our employees can take the productive Muslim classes. We do try to give books. I think, although it might ruin the surprise if some people are listening, but I think they got the emails that, we sent everybody the Hijra calendar that Productive Muslim put together, or it's arriving soon, inshallah, that Hijra calendar for everybody. So you can nudge people. You can create the environment that encourages it. We have a channel in Slack. It used to be called Book Club, but we never actually held a book club, or maybe once or twice, but now it's basically personal development. So we share things within that. It's like, well, I listened to this really inspiring lecture, or I found this really intriguing article, or here's a review of a book I just finished. And that just really gets woven into the team culture, that, hey, you should, feel encouraged to be your best self, not just the business side of you, but the whole person.
When you hire, do you hope people stay with you forever? Or do you, that, what was that co-founder of LinkedIn, that you have tours of duty, where it's like, all right, you're here for 3, 5, 7 years, and then, you're off to, and almost like encouraging people to leave the company. What's your mindset in terms of building your team? Is it more like hire and keep as long as possible, or I want us to work together for 5, 6, 7 years, but hey, I want you to be out there and getting talent to perhaps come back again for another tour of duty? What are your philosophy on that front?
It depends on the person and the role. So a lot of roles are only with the short term in mind. It's, what do we need for the next 6 to 12 months for LaunchGood? And the reason why, and it's not like we let people go after that. They usually evolve into a new role and they grow themselves. But, we don't know what our needs will be in 2 to 3 years exactly. So when we're hiring, most of the time, it's like, okay, this is what we need for the next 6 to 12 months. If you're a good fit for the company, like, for sure, we're going to make sure that there's a role for you beyond that period. And it's just going to evolve. And I think a really good example of that is, one of the all-stars on LaunchGood, her name is Mary Mel Khatib. She is now our, lead product manager on LaunchGood. So if you've ever seen the Ramadan Challenge or Giving Tuesday, she oversees all of that. She's the CEO when it comes to Ramadan Challenge, not me. She started off as what we call a fellow. It's like a part-time, maybe it's minimally paid or unpaid. It's almost like an internship. And she was doing business development. And then she went into like designing a web product called the community page. And then now she's leading these whole challenges. And she's just amazing, right? And she's probably going to continue to evolve in her role. So like Miriam herself isn't going anywhere. What she does in the company will change depending on, you know, how the company itself is changing. Now that said, if we're hiring someone at a higher level, so now we're looking at, you know, we're bringing someone as a finance director, for example. That person, we hope he stays with us for like at least 5 years, because that's a position that's more serious. We need a lot of stability, and we need I think to accumulate, you know, what can I say?
Tacit knowledge, right? That kind of like understand ins and outs, right?
Exactly, and it's like a critical position. Some other roles, like, you know, you can sub people in and out, and that's okay. Like, and that also works for people, right? The fellowship program we've done has been a great program where people get an experience with LaunchGood, get to learn with LaunchGood, get to grow a lot, and can see for themselves, is this something that they want to commit to? Because it's always a two-way street. I know, like, when I was young and looking for work, it's just like you just want anyone to take you, but actually you are interviewing them as much as they're interviewing you, and you should make sure that this is a path that you want to go down.
Love that. And I love how, again, the flexibility and open, again, the transparency, right? It's not like, oh yeah, we want you for life, and like 6 months down the road, hey, bye-bye. But it's actually thinking with them, all right, this is what we need for 6-12 months. And then if there's a cultural fit, which most probably there is, see how it can evolve. I guess my next question is more like on the tricky side. What if there's no alignment? Either on a competence level, so they're not performing, or the company's outgrown them somehow. Or, and this is the harder one, on a character level. Like I said, you have people with different value system, different levels of practicing religiosity in your team. What if there's those internal debates, right? You know, should we have X or Y, or should we feature this? You know, people get something we get our views get in the way.
I wonder if we've had different experiences, because I would flip it.
Okay.
If there's a problem at the character level, that's to me the easy one to let go. It's like, you know, hey Sam, and we've never had a Sam in the company, so I'll say Sam. Like, hey Sam, you're stealing from the company. You're out. You know what I mean? Like,
but not steal level. I'm trying things that, let's say there's a clash of philosophies or values. For example, someone says, you know, you believe in something, and or the model of prophetic inclusiveness is one model, and someone says no, we should include everything, no matter what background they come in, and sometimes the values they bring to the table is not aligned with you as CEO or as a company. So how do you, especially people that come with different practice level, how do you manage those internal debates? Which maybe there's fiqh differences, maybe there's madhab differences.
Yeah. You know, that hasn't actually been much of an issue. I'm trying to think, like, I think we do a good job of setting that expectation early. Like, I always think about how did the Prophet ﷺ deal with, like, you know, a certain issue? I'm like, he never had to deal with that issue because it never happened in the first place, because like it was, and let me give you an example, like, how did the Prophet ﷺ deal with like a kid, like, you know, his child punching him in the face and screaming in his face, and, you know, as parents we have to deal with sometimes, right? And you're like, you probably never had to deal with that because like everyone just loved him so much, like kids love him so much, like I you know, maybe he never had to deal with that. Right. And so I think, you know, the best way to deal with any issue is like preventative measures. And I think the way we hire and the way we define our culture, things are very clear. We haven't had too much issues with respect to that. Now, the other way to me is very hard. If somebody has amazing values, they're actually a perfect alignment for LaunchGood values, but they just can't cut it. Like, what we need from them from a business standpoint. Like, what do you tell someone? I'm sorry, you're just not smart enough. Like, what? You're not going to sign up for like Kumon or something. Like, you know, it's not going to work. Or you don't have the skills, and this is not the place where you're going. We don't. Like, this is not school. Like, you're not here to learn the skills. We need people that have the skills and they come in and add that value. That's a much harder conversation because skills is easier actually than just like pure intellect, because you don't want to call someone stupid or, something like that. It's very difficult. And you know that the values align. It's like, you're awesome. We love spending time with you, but this is a business, and that's hard, right? And I think Netflix helped me a little bit in understanding this. I know there's a whole boycott Netflix thing, and that's actually good. Like, put some fire in them for their whole, like, I don't know what that preteen movie thing is. But from a company culture standpoint, Netflix developed this deck, I don't know, 10 years ago or something. It became very famous in Silicon Valley. And it starts off, says, we are not a family, we're a team. And so I like that analogy, because some people, if I go back to sports, and I take the Boston Celtics, so another sport. I'm a huge Celtics fan, of course, again, being from Massachusetts. They traded away Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett. And these are like two of their superstars, and Paul Pierce is like, bleeds green, and like he eventually got traded away. He's not part of that team because what the team needed, he could no longer give them at that time. But he's always part of the Celtics family, and he still bleeds green, even though now he's retired and an announcer on TV. And I think likewise, people may no longer work for LaunchGood because the skills we need they don't have, or the company changed and we don't need the skills that they do have anymore, etc. But they always remain part of the family if they want. And so we even have a WhatsApp group called LaunchGood Family that includes all the people that used to work with us in the past.
Love that.
But that's different than the team, So, I think that's another way of maybe dealing with these challenges. If you have to let someone go, you let them know you're still part of our family, but you just don't fit in the team right now.
I love that. SubhanAllah. I mean, I mentioned this analogy. I think I shared this analogy with you, and you gave me some insights. It's imagine this. You imagine you are on a journey, and then you come across a river, and you're like, all right, I need to cross this river. I need to get some volunteers to help me make a raft. So you grab some volunteers together, and you make a raft. And you cross the river. Like, awesome, we made it. And then you go on a little bit of journey, and then you find there's an ocean in front of you. And now you need to build a ship. You look around, you realize those volunteers who helped to build the raft are not skilled to build that ship. You need some talented expert people to build a ship. So what do you do?
Yes.
Do you deny the fact, again, this idea of loyalty? Because people say, well, as a Baraka culture, should you be loyal to your team members through thick and thin, even if they don't cut it, put it that way? Or how do you have that conversation in a way that's, again, with those Baraka culture in mind, and without making you feel betrayed? Like, I've worked my sweat, tears with you. I've helped through the hard times, and now you're letting me go after all this, what I've put into your company. How do you manage that conversation with a Baraka mindset? And it's kind of a challenge.
I probably should take it from you. I don't want to sound like the expert here, but I'll just say what we've kind of done from our own experiences. One thing we've done in those cases is, for example, we make sure that they leave the company in the best way possible. It's like, you're going to have to go, but here's what we're going to do. We're going to give you a severance package. It's more than a typical severance package. We're also going to help you try to find a job if you want that, and give you recommendations. Because it's not like these are bad people, like they should be unemployed. Absolutely not, right? They just, like you said, they helped build that raft, but they can't build the boat. Well, let's find another place they can build rafts. And like, we had one person, really talented, like, I love this guy, super talented. He actually helped us win $100,000. Like, he did a really amazing job developing a presentation for us, and I did this pitch competition, and I really felt like he played a big role in us being able to win that. And then it's like, then I have to let you go. And it was, for us, we're a remote team, there's no office to come into, and he was someone who needed structure. And he needed that, like, office to come into, and people around him, and a manager kind of overseeing him. Like, he was young, recent grad, and we weren't able to provide that culture. And since he left, alhamdulillah, he's gotten, I don't know what's going on with COVID now, but he did get a job in a more traditional company that provided that physical plant for him to go to, along with the support and guidance and mentorship. And I'm sure he's thriving in that location. And so I think the Barakah, you said, how do you do it with Barakah mindset? There are two sides to that. One is those things, like I mentioned, like helping them get a job, helping maybe do some references for them, giving them the severance package, do what you can. And then on the other side of things, it's belief that there is a better opportunity out there and you're holding them back. It feels like you're letting them go. You are letting them go, but you're letting them go to something better.
I love it.
Because it wasn't meant for them to be here at this place in this time.
I love that. I love that.
And so that's always hard, but look at, so everyone who has an amazing story has a moment in their lives where a door was slammed in their face. I mean, it's happened to me. I thought I was going to be a director of a masjid here. I got someone to fund me for the role, so it wouldn't even cost the masjid anything. And I was like really gung ho about, really excited. And then the masjid said no. I'm like, and mind you, I was going to cost the masjid $0, because I got it separately funded. And I was crying, and like I was in the arms of one of my teachers, and I was like, am I so worthless that I'm not worth $0? But this was at the same time LaunchGood started. And if I had gone full-time into that, then I wouldn't have been able to commit full-time to LaunchGood. So there's a wisdom to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, like every door that, it's cliche, they say like, when God closes a door, he opens a window, or there's some cliche saying like that, or maxim. And it is true, that we know that, like it's almost thinking too highly of yourself as a business, that like, oh, if I close the door on this person, their life is going to be ruined. Like you're just one stepping stone in their journey of life.
I love that. Oh, subhanAllah. I love that. And that frames that conversation, right? So imagine when you have that conversation with that person, so saying, we're letting you go, I'm sorry, it was really bad. I know you helped us, but hey, too tough luck. But now you frame the conversation with a better content within their life story, where they are in the journey, where they can go better, how you're going to support them. Again, that's Barakah, right? That's Barakah. It's not about letting go for the sake of just almost like in contempt, or like, oh, it's not good enough for me now. It's letting go with compassion, letting go with rahmah, with mercy, with also the adl and justice. And also, it's also doing a disservice to the existing team members. You have somebody to say, quote unquote, bogging everyone down. So there's a tough choice for you to make as well.
That's actually a big point. So like, sorry, I
get
so
please.
Excited, but really, for the longest time, even though I knew I probably should have let some of these people go, I didn't want to. And we didn't want to as a leadership team. We're like, maybe we're not putting them in the right position to succeed. Maybe we should do some more mentorship. Maybe do a little more micromanagement. And you're trying to like do everything you can to make it work. And I remember one of our other very talented people, he started becoming really like depressed and ineffective. And it's like, what's going on? He's like, this person is just like so frustrating to work with and slowing me down. And I realized, subhanAllah, that, when we talk about perks and benefits that you can offer to your employees, and, it could be such and such vacation or whatever, cell phone or whatever, the best benefit and perk you can give to your employees is an amazing work culture. That's the number one thing. And when you hold on to people that are weighing down the team, you're doing a disservice to everybody, and that's where again that concept of Amana comes in. Yes, we have a responsibility and a trust to every person, but we have also a responsibility to the whole system. Like Umar radiallahu anhu, and again I defer to you, but my understanding was like he was quick to drop people as governors.
You're right.
He's like, oh, I sense something is off. All of a sudden, you got all this money or courses. They're like, no, you're gone. Like, like it was like the integrity of the whole is so important.
I love that. That is very, very powerful. And I think, and they talk about team culture. One thing that I personally admire and so mashallah, like I'm aspiring to do as Barakah's company, is how you've built a team that pretty much can run, not all the time, but most of the time almost on autopilot, meaning that you not have to be there day to day. I remember, I think the recent events that happened in Beirut, or recent events, like literally the team itself can know what to do and run with it. How do you build, not from a technical competence, systems, policies, checklist perspective, But I get this question a lot. Team feeling the ownership, right? The team member really realizes this is my responsibility. It's not Chris telling me what to do or me having to like wait for, decision from management, but really taking ownership and run with it. Because that's the biggest complaints that I hear from managers, from company business, like, oh, I have to follow up and tell what to do. How do you build that ownership culture in the organization?
Explicit communication. So all the time, there's a lot of drawbacks to being a remote team, but there's also a lot of benefits. So one of the benefits is everything is typed out. Like it's, it's all there. It's all recorded. You can go into Slack or email or whatever it is and like look up exactly what was said, who said what, who's responsible. And so for example, one is we will tell people, I am unavailable. Like I can, something's going on. Maybe it's personal, maybe it's company-wide, but I can't deal with Lebanon right now. I need someone to take it. And someone will say, okay, I will take it. Now we have clear responsibility and clear communication. And then the other thing we started doing recently is shout outs. So in our monthly team meetings, we started doing shout outs like, Hassan, is getting a shout out this week because, well, I should say Nadine. Nadine's getting a shout out this month because he took ownership over the whole Lebanon campaign crisis. Alhamdulillah raised over $1.7 million. He wasn't the only one, but it's, again, acknowledging the people that take that ownership. Hassan Obaitam, if he's listening, thank you. He organized something recently called Donut Time. If people use Slack, it's actually a pretty cool free add-on in Slack where you can automatically pair up, 2 people to have virtual coffee once every 2 weeks or so. So we give a shout out to Hassan and say, thanks for taking this initiative and bringing Donut Time to LaunchGood. And that is part of the culture. Like you talk about gardening, I know you like that analogy. It's like, well, how do you have a beautiful garden that's weed free? And it's like, it's not done in one day, right? Continual maintenance. And that is true when it comes to like ownership culture as well, is acknowledging when people do it, communicating when there's a need for it, and then correcting when there's a missed opportunity. So recently we talked about, we have all these hires happening with LaunchGood. It's literally 2 new onboards every week for 5 weeks.
Gosh, mashallah.
It's not even recorded. Like it's really like a lot going on and different people doing different onboardings. And it's like, wait a second. And so I just had to bring that up again explicitly. Said this isn't really like, this is not optimal, guys. We need one person to organize all the onboarding, do it cohesively, do it together. It saves everybody time. It makes it more fun. And so, I don't want people to think like, oh, we're perfect and we got all down. But having that explicit communication to communicate when there's a need, communicate what, acknowledge success, and then also address the moments where there's a shortcoming. And it's just like maintaining that garden and weeding and pruning. It has to be consistent effort all the time.
And on that point, how do you give feedback without it getting personal? People sort of take it personally, or or leaving some bad taste. Like, what is it? A formula you follow? Is it how do you approach it?
Is a good guys. So we use a lot of GIFs and emojis. That sounds silly, like that's not an answer, but I think actually it helps, right? Because words can easily be manipulated, like in a person's mind.
Especially
like if you say like, nice shirt, Mohammed, like people are like, oh, is he being sarcastic? Is he being serious? Is he like really excited? So, just adding some emotion in there with a GIF or an emoji helps. I'm also very explicit. I just had a new onboard, someone I'm managing today, his name is Mia Usman. Amazing guy. And I told him, listen, working style, I'm politely blunt. I'm not going to like sugarcoat things. I'm going to tell you how it is, but I'm very nice about it. Sometimes I do follow, I forget what they call it, like the sandwich method or something like that, where you say something nice and affirming, but then you give them the critique, but then you pad it at the end with another nice thing. I know some people hate that. I actually like it. I think there's, it's even, I guess to a sense prophetic, wasn't it? Was it Abdullah? Ibn Omar or Ibn Abbas or something. He's like, he's such a good man. If only he would pray
I love
tahajjud.
that. SubhanAllah. Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And so it's like you affirm a good thing, and then you add that constructive criticism. You know, a lot of this work is emotional intelligence, and it takes practice. I pray that I'm more emotionally intelligent today than I was 5 years ago, and that 5 years from today, I'll be more emotionally intelligent. That's part of that amana and responsibility is we ourselves have to grow. My co-founder, Amani Kalawi, she's so good about saying this, that if we expect our company to grow exponentially, we as people have to grow exponentially.
SubhanAllah. I love that. And I guess on that front, if you were to look back in the last 5 years or 7 years running LaunchGood, any big lesson or perhaps big mistake? It's like, I should have learned that. Like, what is it that any big lesson that you feel like in terms of managing a team that you wish you knew when you started off with LaunchGood?
You know, I think we've covered a lot of them today about the hiring and the firing. Not exactly answering your question, but a couple of things that just kind of come to mind. One is just to reiterate a point I started with, is I didn't realize how much personal hard work would be involved in running a company. You know, in the first couple of years, it was just like, we're just doing this thing and we're so focused on it. But, you know, over these 7 years, we've had loved ones pass away. We've had people get divorced. We've had people get married. We've had babies been born. You know, like so many things have happened in people's lives. And some of them easy, some of them enjoy, some of them very difficult and painful. And that is part of what you're getting into when you're running a company. And I didn't necessarily expect that. The second thing, and if you look at the Prophet of that, you'll find so much guidance of how to manage kind of those type of situations, because he himself was doing the same exact thing as he's building up the Muslim community in Medina. Like, he's helping teach women Quran, and then at the same time, you know, he's consoling somebody who lost their loved one in a battle, for example. And then, you know, second to that is one thing we do in LaunchGood that I think is pretty unique, and I'm just head over heels for it, is gift giving. We have a sister on our team. She's also incredible, Amira Murphy out of Chicago. And unofficially, she's our chief gifting officer. And she is really, really good at picking out gifts. Full disclosure, you got a nice gift for us once when you had a baby. That was, you know, Amira. I
was like, man, Chris really thought this one through.
Oh, yeah. I thought it through by making sure that the person who knows how to give gifts did the gift. And, you know, I just want her to give out as many gifts as often as possible to everybody, like within the team, within our community of supporters and friends like yourself, within, you know, if we mess something up for a customer, like give them a gift. We have new partners on board, give them a gift. Like, you know, recently we got feedback from an imam in Cedar Rapids. Just reached out randomly. He's like, I love you guys. You're always on top of things, but I don't see anything for Sudan relief. Sudan's going through some really bad floods right now. And we're literally in the moment, like just launched page for Sudan. So it was good feedback, although alhamdulillah, we were kind of on top of things. But I'm like, give that guy a gift, you know, because I want to, like, you know, there's a hadith prophet, haddu fatahabbu. Give gifts and you will love one another. And that's something that's, I think, really helpful for us. And I hope other people do too, is like, everyone loves to give a gift. It's the thought that counts more than the gift itself. But having that culture of gift giving is just another signal of, like, we love you, we respect you, we're honored to work with you.
Love it. I love that. And that's a very practical, if you want a simple practical idea to walk away from this show is giving gifts. Absolutely. All right, last few moments. I just want to show a few. Give a shout out for LaunchGood on two fronts, inshallah ta'ala. One is their hiring page. If you're looking to work with an amazing remote team that's actually making impact around the world, I cannot sort of recommend enough to go and apply for work for LaunchGood. No matter where you are in the world, just go and apply. They're professional, they're values driven. It's an A team. I've had the pleasure of working and sort of working with the team on few joint campaigns. I've had the pleasure of talking to the team on few of the webinars, and really just the team culture is something very, very special that I personally admire as a business owner myself, and something that I recommend people to check out. Please, if you think that you have the talent and the values in line, I'm sure a lot of these watching this show are, then do apply, right? Do apply, because you never know, you might be the next LaunchGooder who's making impact around the world, inshallah ta'ala. The next one, for those of you who really want to be part of LaunchGood in any way, shape, or form, then I highly recommend to check out their Friday giving. This, honestly, out of all of LaunchGood stuff, this is my favorite for one reason. It is the most small, consistent effort that you put in every week. So the way this works, Friday Givers Club, is that basically you go to this link, which is launchgood.com/Friday Givers. And once you go to our link and you go to the page for LaunchGood, you check out this join now. Click on join now. Once you click on join now, that's it. You'll choose the amount you want to donate. You will, first you'll log in and then choose the amount you want to donate. And every Friday, it's going to donate that for you. Imagine how you go to masjid all the time and give, and alhamdulillah, please do that. Please continue to give to your masjid locally and support them. But imagine also at the back of your mind, you have this Friday givers, and they will automatically donate to a campaign on your behalf that's in need. And also you can choose manual as well, which is pretty cool as well. So highly recommend you check out Friday Givers. Chris, anything you want to add to either Friday Givers or the careers that you like to share with everyone else?
This was great. You're too kind, Mohammed. Those would be my two big asks as well. And even if you're watching and you're not necessarily interested in working for LaunchGood, if you know somebody that's really talented, please refer them to us. We are hiring, as mentioned. And I think that's pretty good. People can find me on Twitter. I think I'm AR Blauvelt. So my nickname is Abdur-Rahman. So at AR Blauvelt. Or you can at LaunchGood, and I'm easy to find. Yeah, I'm sure you can find me. There are not that many, Chris Blauvelts who are Muslim.
Alhamdulillah. With that, I want to say thank you so much. Jazakallah khair, Chris, really sharing wisdoms, insights. I know managing a team is hard, and managing a team that grows with you. And inshallah, I hope you don't mind me sharing this. I know that you have a team not only that works with you professionally, but also love working with you. I know they shared a lot of, on a personal level, they each enjoy working with you, even if they don't cut it, so to speak. So, that team culture requires Barakah. And I hope that whoever's watching this, start thinking, if you're a business owner, if you're a startup, if you're a manager, if you're a team lead, if you're a school teacher, whatever role in life, if you are responsible for a group of people and you have a responsibility, start thinking, how can I manage this team with Barakah? Through the mindsets, through the values, through the rituals, which could be as simple as gift giving or making dua, inshallah ta'ala. With that, jazakumullah khair, subhanakallah bihamdik, ashhadu la ilaha illa ant, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.